Hi friends, good afternoon. We're gonna do a little art project in our house this afternoon, and I thought that maybe you guys would want the option to do it as well. As you can see, I'm feeling especially beautiful. Lincoln has made me a headband. We're going to do this art project using things that we have around the house. So I will be using like an expired card and a clothespin. I will use a zip tie or maybe two. I'm going to use 3 or 4 Q-tips, and then I will use a paintbrush. The thing I'm going to paint, I will be painting a canvas, a blank canvas. We have them in our house, and that's, we're going to try to keep these for a long time. Samson and I are going to do it together. You can paint a piece of like cardboard or anything that's thicker, like even cardstock paper would be better. A piece of computer paper probably won't really work for this particular art project. So anything that you have that is thick. We are also going to use acrylic paints. So gather those things and then we will make our video and we'll be with you shortly. A ton of paint, yep, for the background. And the first thing you're gonna do is we're using a sponge, you can see. We're just painting the background. Samson wanted his background to be red, and so we've mixed a couple of different colors of our reds together to give it kind of a streaky feel. I did my background already, and it's kind of like a blue and purple, just a little bit of white in there, streaky, okay? Samson's getting a whole lot of paint on there, and he's gonna smear it, and he's gonna gather it, yep, gather it right there where it's thick. I'm gonna do the whole background. So that's our first step, is to do the whole background of your image. So you can see that Samson chose to swirl his background. So he just used like a technique that would be like circular motions with like a sponge. That's what we used. And I chose to make mine really straight, okay? And you can do any sort of like texture that you want back there. Okay, our next step, we've mixed a bunch of colors. We used yellow and blue to make our green, our initial green, and then I added a little bit of turquoise in. You don't have to add turquoise, just whatever color you have. But we're gonna do some hanging vines in the background, and we're gonna use our card. Okay, so just kind of like choppy, okay? And gather some paint. And then you start at the top of your canvas and just drag it down. Okay, let's do a bunch of those hanging, like they're gonna be hanging vines. Okay, so you gather some more paint.
Wildflowers.
Wildflowers, yeah, Samson says they're wildflowers. So you can be a little bit thicker if you use a little bit like more like the side. Okay, so Samson and I are going to do this and I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. Okay, you can see the differences in Samson and mine paintings. These are our vines in the background. It's the imperfections that's going to make this painting very beautiful, okay? Okay, so what I've done here is to grab a Q-tip now, and I kind of just like mixed it, this pink and this red, and I'm just dotting it. And then I started from the bottom, and it's just dotting with a Q-tip to give it a nice little texture. And if you use more than one color, you can see that there are some like shadows and some highlights.
Like this one, yellow and blue and every color.
Yep, Samson's doing his work over there too. He's really, getting some pick up your brush in between, buddy, so you have that texture, so that doesn't smear. Yeah, you want the texture
I know, I'm
in
just
this
picking
flower.
up some of this.
Because it'll give the illusion that you have painted like 100 tiny flowers, when really, you're just dotting. Okay, so we're creating some like hanging vines. While Samson's still working on his hanging vines, I'm gonna show you I'm gonna use the side that you would normally squeeze. And I'm gonna dip it in like this purple, a little bit of purple, maybe one of them in like partially on the yellow, like that. I have no idea how this is gonna turn out. I've never used this one before. I'm just gonna do the same kind of dabbing with that in kind of a circular motion. Or maybe I can like press down and turn.
Yeah, that looked good.
That looks good? That's kind of interesting to press down and turn.
I'm ready to do that.
Okay.
Is that for the flowers?
That's where we're making more flowers this way, just by like pressing and turning. That's what we're gonna choose. At home, if you would like to choose, I mean, whatever material you use, you might not have a clothespin. You might be using something else.
Can I dip this in the water? Can
Okay.
I put it in the water? Or not? I don't need one.
Okay, so while Samson does his Q-tip or his clothespin work, I'm going to show you what I've been doing, what I'm going to do with this zip strip. Okay, I'm going to dip it in my yellow. I'm just going to like
And then
do different angles. It's kind of a bendy zip strip. Different angles to try to get an interesting technique. Samson. So Samson and I have mastered the uses of our zip strip. He's making X's, and I've made little tiny X's with a little extra. Okay, I'm back to my Q-tip. I've made a rose. Just grabbing like a bunch of paint, pink and purple and red is what I took for this one, and I just made a big swirl. Big swirl, kind of like that. And then once at the end, once I've swirled it, I grabbed like one of the lighter colors and put it in the center.
I'm making a big, different color rose.
Yeah, and I just kind of make it
turquoise one.
Pop a little bit with a little bit of light in the middle. So I've decided that my favorite thing to use is actually just the Q-tip. Giving a lot of texture to my hanging flowers. Although I did use, I used a broken paintbrush. I used my zip strip. I used the clothespin. But mostly I've decided I'm just going to use a lot of this Q-tip. So that makes your material gathering much easier. Here I've got some turquoise and some white that I'm like randomly mixing to give some highlights and some shadows to my blue vine that is hanging. You see I've got those purple behind there just to add a little color, splash of color back there. So far this is what my painting is looking like. Okay, I'm using a pencil. I don't really know what it's gonna look like. Dipped it in some white, and over here, I'm just gonna do some swirling. This is a sharpened pencil. If you had a pencil that was not sharp, like that didn't, you know, you could probably dot with it. But right now I'm just kind of swirling it around, dipping it in the white. It's kind of gathering some of the wet paint that's underneath. And kind of like a fun swirl pattern. And I might go back over it and add another color on top, just with the exact same thing. Same little swirls. So it's really just like your, just paint with textures. Experiment with what you like. If you don't like it, paint over it. No problem. You paint with a bunch of layering. The important thing is just to start at the top. And then I wanted my rose to be on the top. So I just like went right around the edge of that, you know, and then I'll go probably around the side. But if I mess up my rose, then I'll just paint it again on top. It's no problem. So I'm just gonna keep going yellow with my like, literally it's like a broken chunk of plastic. It's the back end of a paintbrush. Just kind of making like almost little, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm gathering a bunch of paint. I don't really care if there's a little bit of yellow and red on there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That makes a flower. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you want to make a really fine one, you just don't press as hard. That's going to be kind of orange because that's red with the yellow. That might be kind of interesting as it gets further down. And I'll just keep kind of messing with that as I go. Since I want it to appear as if it's hanging, the ones I've done down here, I got to follow my line up, and then it wants to hang. So I'm going to do it above that rose as well. I don't want to do it over my rose because I like that rose to be in front. So this, if you do some on the top and some on the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it makes it look a little bit like it's hanging behind the rose. Okay. So I'm going to say that my painting is done. There's a lot going on. It's a lot of hanging. If you want to hang it, or it can be a growing up. But I prefer mine to be like a hanging vine. I'll show you. Samson is still working on his. I'll show you his. So Samson is preferring to let some of his dry before he keeps going. He's finding that a lot of his colors are mixing, and he's not pleased that it's all kind of blending in with the green. And so he's letting it dry, and then he's going to come back to it so that his colors will pop.